told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady,
Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverine. Just you reconsider. Fucking problem. Is that what you said when you were Time
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, wherever video brings entertainment to life. Deadpool Wolverine is a 2024 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics characters Deadpool and Wolverine, produced by Marvel Studios, Maximum Effort, and 21 Laps Entertainment, and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It is the 34th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, the first R-rated MCU film, and serves as the long-awaited sequel to Deadpool, 2016, and Deadpool 2, 2018. Directed by Shawn Levy from a screenplay written by Levy, Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Wells. The film stars Ryan Reynolds as the wisecracking mercenary Wade Wilson, Deadpool alongside Hugh Jackman, who returns as Logan, Wolverine after previously concluding the character's story in Logan, 2017. The supporting cast includes Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, Matthew McFadden as TVA agent Mr. Paradox, Morena Baccarin, Rob Delaney, Leslie Uggams, Aaron Stanford reprising his role as Pyro, and numerous surprise appearances from characters across 20th Century Fox's Marvel films. The story follows Wade Wilson after he has retired from life as Deadpool and is attempting to build a normal existence when the Time Variance Authority, TVA, recruits him to help preserve the multiverse. Learning that his own timeline faces imminent destruction, Wade embarks on a chaotic journey through the multiverse where he encounters a broken and reluctant variant of Wolverine. Despite their constant clashes and mildly different personalities, the unlikely pair must join forces to stop the immensely powerful mutant Cassandra Nova, whose plan threatens not only their universe but the stability of the entire multiverse. Along the way, the film celebrates the legacy of Fox's Marvel Universe through numerous returning characters, nostalgic references, and large-scale action sequences while blending irreverent comedy, emotional character moments, and graphic violence that remain faithful to the tone of the previous Deadpool films. Development of a third Deadpool film began at 20th Century Fox shortly after the release of Deadpool, 2016, but the project underwent significant changes following Disney's acquisition of Fox in 2019, bringing the franchise under Marvel Studios' control. Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Malin-Ullaglan were initially hired to write the screenplay before Shawn Levy joined as director in March 2022, reuniting with Ryan Reynolds after Free Guy and The Adam Project. Original Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick later returned alongside Wells to reshape the script. The creative direction was finalized after Hugh Jackman agreed to reprise Wolverine in August 2022. Allowing Marvel Studios to build the film around the long-awaited on-screen partnerships between Deadpool and Wolverine. Principal photography began in May 2023 at Pinewood Studios, Bovingdon Airfield Studios, and several locations across England, with additional filming in Los Angeles. Production was temporarily halted during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike before resuming in November and concluding in January 2024. The official title, Deadpool Wolverine, was unveiled in February 2024. Rob Simonson composed the original score, while the soundtrack prominently features classic songs including Madonna's Like a Prayer, which became closely associated with the film's marketing and several of its most memorable sequences. Deadpool Wolverine premiered at the David H. Koch Theater in New York City on July 22, 2024. Before its worldwide theatrical release on July 26, 2024, as part of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, who widely praised the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Jackman's emotional return as Wolverine, the film's action, humor, fanservice, and nostalgic celebration of Fox's Marvel legacy. Although some reviewers criticized its plot and heavy reliance on multiverse references, audiences responded enthusiastically, making it one of the year's biggest cinematic events. The film became a massive global box office success, grossing approximately $1.338 billion worldwide, making it the second highest-grossing film of 2024, the highest-grossing R-rated film in history, and one of the 20 highest-grossing films of all time at the time of its release. Produced with an estimated net budget of approximately $429 million, it is regarded as one of the most expensive films ever made after accounting for production costs and incentives. Beyond its commercial achievements, Deadpool Wolverine received numerous award nominations and accolades, solidifying its place as one of Marvel Studios' most successful and culturally significant releases while successfully integrating the Deadpool franchise into the MCU and paying tribute to nearly a quarter-century of Fox's Marvel films. Here's a rewritten, expanded, and fully detailed version of the plot in paragraph form. In 2018, after the events of Deadpool 2, Wade Wilson uses Cable's time travel device to rewrite key moments in his life, successfully preventing the death of his beloved Vanessa Carlisle and correcting several tragic events from his timeline. Seeking a greater purpose, Wade then travels across the multiverse to Earth-616 at the sacred timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in hopes of becoming an Avenger. He meets Happy Hogan at Avengers Tower and enthusiastically attempts to convince him that he deserves a place among Earth's mightiest heroes. However, Happy politely rejects him, believing Wade lacks the qualities necessary to become an Avenger. Disappointed and feeling that he has failed to achieve the significance he always desired, Wade returns to his own universe, Earth 10005. Over the following 6 years, his life gradually falls apart. His relationship with Vanessa ends, he retires from his career as the wisecracking mercenary Deadpool, and he settles into an ordinary existence as a used car salesman alongside his close friend and former X-Force teammate Peter. Although he tries to embrace a normal life, Wade remains haunted by the feeling that he has wasted his potential and failed to make a meaningful difference in the world. During Wade's birthday celebration with his family and friends, armed agents of the Time Variance Authority, TVA, suddenly appear and arrest him. He is transported outside the normal flow of time to the TVA headquarters, where he meets the ambitious TVA official Mr. Paradox. Paradox explains that the TVA exists beyond time itself and is responsible for protecting the sacred timeline while monitoring the countless realities of the multiverse. Recognizing Wade's unique history of manipulating timelines, Paradox offers him the opportunity to permanently leave his own universe and live on the sacred timeline, a prospect Wade initially accepts with excitement. However, Paradox soon reveals the devastating truth that Wade's home universe is slowly dying because it's anchoring at the individual whose existence stabilizes that reality. It was Logan, the Wolverine who sacrificed his life in Logan, 2017. With Logan dead, Earth 10005 has become unstable and is destined to collapse over thousands of years. Impatient with waiting for the natural process, Paradox secretly intends to accelerate the universe's destruction using a powerful machine called the Time Ripper, allowing him to erase the timeline completely without authorization from TVA leadership. Refusing to accept the destruction of everyone he cares about, Wade steals Paradox's tempad and escapes the TVA. Determined to save his universe, Wade travels to Logan's grave hoping to resurrect him, but discovers that Logan's death cannot be undone. Refusing to give up, he begins searching the multiverse for another version of Wolverine who might serve as a replacement anchor. After encountering numerous bizarre and often comical Wolverine variants across different realities, Wade eventually recruits a deeply broken and emotionally scarred Logan whose world regards him as its greatest failure. Unlike the heroic Wolverine known throughout the multiverse, this Logan is consumed by guilt after failing to protect the X-Men, whose deaths occurred because of his own mistakes. Wade brings this reluctant Wolverine back to the TVA, hoping that Paradox will accept him as a substitute anchor being. Instead, Paradox dismisses the idea, insisting that anchor beings cannot simply be replaced and ridiculing this particular Wolverine as the worst variant in existence. When Wade realizes that Paradox is acting without the knowledge or approval of TVA leadership, Paradox decides to eliminate both Wade and Logan by banishing them to the Void, a desolate wasteland located at the end of time where pruned people, places, and realities are discarded forever. Inside the Void, Wade attempts to convince Logan that the TVA may still be able to repair his shattered past, persuading him to work together long enough to find an escape. Their uneasy alliance is quickly interrupted when they encounter Johnny Storm, the Human Torch from another universe, who is also trapped in the Void. The trio is soon captured by the forces of Cassandra Nova, the immensely powerful telepathic twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier. Cassandra secretly rules the Void through fear and manipulation after making an arrangement with the TVA that allows her to remain there in exchange for controlling its inhabitants. She effortlessly invades the minds of her prisoners, brutally kills Johnny Storm, and abandons Wade and Logan to be consumed by Alioth, the gigantic temporal entity that devours everything within the Void. Through teamwork, determination, and sheer luck, the two heroes narrowly escape Alioth and continue searching for a way to stop Cassandra. During their journey, Wade and Logan encounter several alternate Deadpool variants, including the cheerful Nicepool and the lovable Dogpool, who direct them toward a hidden resistance movement fighting against Cassandra's rule. Along the way, Wade accidentally admits that he cannot guarantee the TVA will actually restore Logan's ruined timeline, causing Logan to feel manipulated and betrayed. Their disagreement erupts into a prolonged and brutally violent battle that ends only when both collapse from exhaustion. They are rescued by members of the Resistance, which includes Laura Kinney, X-23, Elektra Natchios, Blade, and Gambit, heroes from various Marvel universes who have all been abandoned within the void. Wade proposes that they unite against Cassandra, while Laura emotionally encourages Logan to stop dwelling on his failures and become the hero he was always capable of being. Inspired by Laura's faith in him, Logan finally accepts his responsibility and joins the Resistance. Together, the group launches an assault on Cassandra's fortress. While the Resistance keeps Cassandra's forces occupied, Wade and Logan successfully neutralize Cassandra's psychic abilities by forcing Juggernaut's magical helmet onto her head, before they can finish her. However, Cassandra's Lieutenant Pyro betrays her under orders from Mr. Paradox. Although Cassandra is nearly killed, Logan convinces Wade not to execute her, believing they should remain better than their enemies. Cassandra heals herself almost instantly, uses a sling ring to open a portal back to Earth 10,005, and sends Wade and Logan through it. After learning from the treacherous Pyro about Paradox's Time Ripper, Cassandra murders him for his betrayal and follows Wade and Logan to Earth 10,005. Deciding that the multiverse itself is beyond saving, she seizes control of the Time Ripper and intends to destroy every timeline simultaneously, leaving only the Void under her rule. To protect the machine, Cassandra summons a massive army of Deadpool variants from across the multiverse. These alternate Deadpools overwhelm Wade and Logan in an enormous battle, during which Nicepool is killed before Peter unexpectedly arrives and peacefully distracts the variants, allowing the heroes to continue toward the Time Ripper. Paradox reluctantly admits that destroying the machine requires disrupting the flow of matter and antimatter inside its core, an act that would almost certainly kill anyone attempting it. Refusing to let the other make the sacrifice alone, Wade and Logan work together to overload the Time Ripper, sharing its immense energy between them. Their combined effort destroys the device, kills Cassandra Nova, and prevents the collapse of every timeline. Against all expectations, both heroes survive the explosion because they bear the burden together. Following the battle, TVA leader Hunter B-15 arrives with TVA forces, arrests Mr. Paradox for his unauthorized actions, and confirms that Wade and Logan have successfully saved Earth 10,005 from destruction. Wade requests that the TVA rescue the Resistance heroes from the Void and restore Logan's original world. Hunter B-15 agrees to rescue Laura and the other surviving heroes but explains that Logan's tragic past cannot be altered because the hardships he endured shaped him into the selfless hero he ultimately became. Recognizing that this Wolverine deserves a second chance, she authorizes him to remain permanently in Wade's universe. Sometime later, Wade hosts a gathering with his family and friends, including Peter, Blind Al, Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Yukio, Dogpool, Laura, and Logan. Having finally rediscovered a sense of purpose, Wade begins repairing his fractured relationship with Vanessa, while Logan quietly embraces the possibility of building a new life in a universe that has become his new home, bringing both heroes' emotional journeys toward redemption and acceptance to a hopeful conclusion. Ryan Reynolds stars as Wade Wilson, Deadpool, the foul-mouthed, fourth wall-breaking mercenary from Earth 10,005 whose accelerated healing factor saved him from terminal cancer but left his body permanently scarred. At the beginning of the film, Wade has retired from his life as Deadpool following the events of Deadpool 2, ended his relationship with Vanessa Carlisle, and settled into an ordinary job as a used car salesman alongside his close friend Peter. Despite attempting to live a normal life, Wade continues to struggle with feelings of inadequacy and a desire to become something greater, ultimately leading him into a multiversal adventure after being recruited by the Time Variance Authority, TVA. Reynolds once again balances the character's trademark irreverent humor, relentless pop culture references, violent action, and surprisingly emotional vulnerability while interacting directly with the audience through his signature fourth wall-breaking narration. Writer Ratrice described Deadpool as an absurd outsider dropped into the comparatively serious world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, creating much of the film's comedic contrast. Reynolds also portrays Nicepool, a handsome and cheerful Deadpool variant without scars or a healing factor, humorously credited under the alias Gordon Reynolds. The film's elaborate opening dance sequence was performed by professional dancer Nick Pauli, who was credited as Deadpool. Hugh Jackman makes his long-awaited return as Logan, Wolverine, reprising the iconic role for the first time since Logan, 2017. Rather than continuing the story of the Wolverine whose death concluded that film, Jackman portrays a broken Wolverine variant from another universe whose greatest failure resulted in the deaths of the X-Men under his protection. Consumed by guilt and regret, this version of Logan has lost faith in himself before reluctantly joining forces with Deadpool to save the multiverse. Director Shawn Levy and Jackman intentionally explored new emotional dimensions of Wolverine by pairing him with Deadpool, emphasizing the contrast between Logan's reserved, world-weary personality and Wade's endless optimism and chaotic humor. Their constantly argumentative yet ultimately heartfelt relationship forms the emotional core of the film. To prepare for the physically demanding role, Jackman underwent an intensive training regimen and reportedly consumed up to 8,000 calories daily to regain Wolverine's muscular physique. In addition to the primary Logan, Jackman portrays several memorable Wolverine variants encountered during Deadpool's multiversal search, including a comic-accurate short Wolverine standing approximately 5 feet 3 inches tall with actor Luke Bennett serving as his body double, the eye-patch-wearing Gambler Patch, Old Man Logan, a crucified Wolverine inspired by the cover of Uncanny X-Men number 251, a brown and tan costumed Wolverine battling the Hulk in homage to the Incredible Hulk number 340, and an Age of Apocalypse version sporting long glam rock hair, one missing hand, and the character's distinctive black and red costume. The film also features a surprise appearance by Henry Cavill as another Wolverine variant affectionately nicknamed the Cavalrin by fans. Emma Corrin portrays Cassandra Nova, the film's primary antagonist, a powerful mutant possessing immense telepathic and telekinetic abilities. Cassandra is the malevolent twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier and rules the mysterious Voida wasteland existing at the end of time where the TVA sends prune timelines and individuals. Corrin approached the role as a charismatic yet deeply unsettling villain, drawing inspiration from Christoph Waltz's performance as Hans Landa in Inglourious Basterds. Shawn Levy and Reynolds described Cassandra as someone capable of instantly charming anyone she meets before effortlessly turning lethal, creating an antagonist who is simultaneously captivating, unpredictable, and terrifying. Corrin also sought to honor Patrick Stewart's and James McAvoy's portrayals of Charles Xavier while remaining faithful to Cassandra's comic book relationship with her twin brother. Matthew Macfadyen appears as Mr. Paradox, an ambitious and manipulative TVA agent who secretly orchestrates the destruction of Earth 10,005 using the experimental Time Ripper without authorization from TVA leadership. Although Paradox initially presents himself as an ally by offering Wade a place on the sacred timeline, his selfish ambitions and willingness to erase an entire universe ultimately reveal him as one of the story's principal antagonists. Macfadyen described the character as someone who considers himself destined for greatness despite occupying what he views as a mundane bureaucratic position monitoring the multiverse. Returning from the previous Deadpool films are Morena Baccarin as Vanessa Carlisle, Wade's former fiancée tilde copywritee whose relationship with him has deteriorated before the events of the film, Rob Delaney as Peter Wisdom, Wade's loyal friend, former X-Force teammate, and co-worker at the used car dealership who ultimately plays a pivotal role during the climactic Deadpool variant battle. Leslie Uggams as Wade's wisecracking blind roommate Blind Al Karansani as the lovable taxi driver Dopinder Brianna Hildebrand as Negasonic teenage warhead Shioli Katsuna as her cheerful girlfriend Yukio Stefan Copy Adai Arasisia as the voice of Colossus Randall Reader as Wade's longtime acquaintance Buck and Lewistan as Shatterstar, another former member of the X-Force. The film also brings back several beloved characters from Fox's Marvel films and other Marvel franchises as part of its multiversal celebration. Aaron Stanford reprises his role as John Allardyce, Pyro, now serving as one of Cassandra Nova's followers while sporting a costume far more faithful to the comic books than in the original X-Men films. Tyler Mane returns as Victor Creed, Sabretooth, Wolverine's longtime nemesis from X-Men 2000. Daphne Keane reprises her acclaimed role as Laura Kinney, X-23 from Logan, becoming an emotional source of inspiration that helps Logan rediscover his heroic purpose. Jennifer Garner returns as Elektra Natchios, the skilled assassin from Daredevil, 2003, and Elektra, 2005. Wesley Snipes reprises his legendary portrayal of Eric Brooks, Blade, the half-human, half-vampire hunter from New Line Cinema's Blade trilogy. Chris Evans makes a surprise appearance as Johnny Storm, Human Torch, reprising his role from Tim Story's Fantastic Four films rather than his MCU role as Steve Rogers. Jon Favreau returns as Happy Hogan, connecting Deadpool directly to the MCU during his visit to Earth 616. While Wami Mosaku reprises her role as Hunter B-15 from Marvel Studios' Disney Plus series Loki. One of the film's biggest surprises is Channing Tatum, who finally portrays Remy LeBeau, Gambit, fulfilling a role he had long been attached to play before the cancellation of Fox's standalone Gambit film. Several classic Marvel villains also appear in newly recast roles within The Void, including Aaron W. Reed as Juggernaut, Mike Waters as Blob, Nili Sutton as Quill, Billy Clements as the Russian, Aisha Hussain as Psylocke, Chloe Kibble as Callisto, Jade Leigh as Lady Deathstrike, Eduardo Gago++ as Azazel, Daniel Medina Ramos as Toad, Curtis Small as Bullseye, and Jessica Walker as Arclight, further expanding the film's celebration of Marvel's cinematic history. The film's climactic sequence introduces dozens of alternate Deadpool variants from across the multiverse. Baggy, the award-winning canine actor, portrays Mary Poppins, Dogpool, while Blake Lively provides as the voice of Ladypool, physically portrayed by stunt performer Christian Betteridge. Reynolds and Lively's children in as Nolan Reynolds voice Kidpool and Babypool, respectively. Nathan Fillion voices the floating zombie Headpool, Matthew McConaughey voices Cowboy Pool, Paul Mullen portrays Welshpool, Alex Kishkovich appears as Canadapool, Harry Holland portrays Whirlpool, Kevin Fortin plays Zenpool, and Hung Dante Dong portrays Ronanpool. Additional variants include Deadpool 2099, Golden Age Deadpool, Wheezy Wilson, Iron Deadpool, and a humorous variant inspired by Hugh Jackman's role as P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman. The film also features brief cameo appearances by Ollie Palmer as a bar patron, Greg Hemphill as a bartender, and Chris Hemsworth, whose appearance as Thor is created using repurposed archival footage from Thor: The Dark World, 2013. Together, the film's expansive ensemble cast serves as both a celebration of over 2 decades of Marvel films produced outside the MCU and a bridge integrating the Deadpool franchise into Marvel Studios' interconnected cinematic universe. Following the enormous commercial and critical success of Deadpool, 2016, 20th Century Fox immediately began developing multiple follow-up projects to expand the franchise. Plans initially included both Deadpool 2 and a third standalone Deadpool film, as well as an X-Force spin-off centered on the popular mutant superhero team introduced in the comics. However, the franchise's direction changed early in development when director Tim Miller departed the sequels in late 2016 because of creative differences with star and producer Ryan Reynolds regarding the tone, style, and future direction of the series. David Leitch, known for John Wick and Atomic Blonde, was subsequently hired to direct Deadpool 2, 2018. While Fox began searching for another filmmaker to helm the third installment. During the production of Deadpool 2, writers Ratrice and Paul Wernick explained that the film would introduce X-Force before spinning the team off into its own feature, allowing the third Deadpool film to focus on a more intimate, character-driven story rather than another ensemble adventure. Their long-term strategy mirrored Marvel Studios' approach with films such as The Avengers, 2012. In which crossover projects connected independently developed franchises. At the time, the creative team envisioned Deadpool continuing as its own series while the X-Force films would expand the franchise into a larger cinematic universe. The future of the franchise changed dramatically in December 2017 when the Walt Disney Company announced its acquisition of 21st Century Fox. Because Marvel Studios had long maintained a family-friendly PG-13 approach to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, many fans questioned whether Deadpool's signature R-rated violence, profanity, and adult humor would survive the transition. Disney CEO Bob Iger quickly reassured audiences that Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of Wade Wilson would remain part of Marvel's future plans and confirmed that Disney was willing to continue producing R-rated Deadpool films, provided audiences clearly understood they differed from traditional MCU releases. Iger even suggested the possibility of creating a separate Marvel label dedicated to mature superhero stories. Despite these assurances, uncertainty surrounding the merger caused several planned Fox Marvel projects, including X-Force and the third Deadpool film, to slow considerably. Reynolds himself acknowledged in 2018 that X-Force had become the immediate priority and even suggested that a third standalone Deadpool film might not happen for some time. Reese and Wernick similarly stated that Ryan Reynolds intended to take a break from the character after Deadpool 2 before eventually returning once the X-Force project had been completed. Even as plans evolved, interest in another Deadpool film remained high. David Leitch publicly expressed his willingness to return as director if scheduling permitted, while reports in 2018 indicated that a third film had entered active development with production tentatively expected to move from Vancouver, British Columbia, to Atlanta, Georgia. Later that year, Fox released Once Upon a Deadpool, a PG-13 re-edit of Deadpool 2, which served not only as a holiday-themed theatrical release but also as an opportunity for Disney and Marvel Studios to evaluate whether the character could successfully appeal to broader MCU audiences without sacrificing his unique identity. While promoting the release, Ryan Reynolds confirmed that a third film was actively being developed but emphasized that it would take the franchise in a completely different direction. Reynolds later revealed that one early concept involved a comedic road trip adventure inspired by Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon, 1950, pairing Deadpool with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine as they traveled to the North Pole in an attempt to save Christmas. Karen Sony, who portrayed Dopinder, later confirmed that this unconventional holiday story had been seriously discussed during early development. Independently, Hugh Jackman had also imagined a buddy action film featuring Wolverine and Deadpool inspired by the classic action comedy 48 HRS, 1982, but he had firmly retired from portraying Wolverine after the emotional conclusion of Logan, 2017, making such a collaboration appear unlikely at the time. A major turning point occurred in March 2019 when Disney officially completed its acquisition of 21st Century Fox, returning the film rights to the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and numerous other Marvel characters to Marvel Studios. As Marvel Studios reorganized its long-term cinematic plans, nearly all Fox-developed Marvel projects, including X-Force, were placed on indefinite hold while executives determined how these characters would eventually be incorporated into the MCU. Despite the uncertainty, Marvel Studios continued evaluating the future of the Deadpool franchise. Josh Brolin, who portrayed both Cable in Deadpool 2 and Thanos in the MCU, revealed that he had discussed Cable's future with Marvel Studios, while Zazie Beetz expressed optimism about returning as Domino. In October 2019, longtime Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick confirmed that they, Reynolds, and the rest of the creative team were intentionally taking a break following the demanding production of Deadpool 2 while awaiting Marvel Studios' creative direction. They reiterated that a third Deadpool film would eventually move forward, would remain unapologetically R-rated despite joining the MCU, and would fully integrate Wade Wilson into Marvel Studios' interconnected cinematic universe. Reese explained that no definitive story had ever been finalized before Disney's acquisition because both the filmmakers' creative exhaustion and the uncertainty surrounding the merger delayed development. Instead, the team chose to wait until they discovered the right concept, the one that could successfully preserve the spirit of the first two films while introducing Deadpool into the MCU in a meaningful and satisfying way. That breakthrough would ultimately come with the decision to reunite Ryan Reynolds with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, fundamentally reshaping the project into what eventually became Deadpool Wolverine, 2024. Development of what would ultimately become Deadpool Wolverine officially entered a new phase after Disney completed its acquisition of 21st Century Fox in 2019, bringing the Deadpool franchise under the control of Marvel Studios. In October 2019, Ryan Reynolds announced that he had begun meeting with Marvel Studios executives to discuss the future of Wade Wilson within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. At the time, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige faced the significant creative challenge of determining how to introduce Deadpool, the X-Men, and mutants into an already established cinematic universe without undermining either continuity or tone. Feige later described Reynolds as an idea machine, noting that the actor continually pitched wildly different concepts in an effort to discover the right direction for the character's MCU debut. Among Reynolds' earliest proposals was an intentionally low-budget independent-style road movie featuring only Deadpool and his loyal taxi driver Dopinder, a concept inspired by intimate character-driven films rather than large-scale superhero spectacles. Another proposal featured a lavish musical sequence in which Deadpool and Wolverine would perform to Elton John's "I Guess That's Why They Call It the Blues," while Reynolds also revisited an earlier Rashomon-inspired concept that would tell the same story from multiple perspectives as Deadpool and Wolverine embarked on a chaotic adventure together. At that stage, however, Hugh Jackman had retired from portraying Wolverine following Logan, 2017, and Marvel considered bringing him back impossible. Nevertheless, Reynolds remained committed to finding the perfect concept, confirming in December 2019 that the entire creative team was actively developing a new Deadpool film at Marvel Studios. Seeking a fresh creative voice, Marvel Studios and Reynolds met with numerous writers throughout October 2020 before ultimately selecting sisters Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux-Ojlin, whose pitch closely matched both Reynolds' vision and Marvel's long-term plans for the franchise. They officially joined the project in November 2020 to develop the screenplay. During this period, Marvel also explored bringing back Deadpool to director David Leitch, but scheduling conflicts prevented his return despite productive discussions. While filming The Adam Project, 2022, Reynolds approached director Shawn Levy about collaborating on the next Deadpool film, having already worked successfully together on Free Guy, 2021. Levy enthusiastically accepted the opportunity. In January 2021, Kevin Feige confirmed that Reynolds was personally overseeing the screenplay's development while balancing numerous other projects, delaying production until at least 2022. Around this time Reynolds also conceived one of the film's signature ideas, an emotionally charged action sequence choreographed to Madonna's Like a Prayer. In its earliest form, the sequence was intended to follow the death of Colossus, serving as the emotional catalyst that would push Deadpool back into action after reaching his lowest point. Although the surrounding story changed dramatically during development, the use of Like a Prayer ultimately remained one of the finished film's defining musical moments. In July 2021, Reynolds and Taika Waititi further teased Deadpool's arrival in the MCU by appearing in the promotional short Deadpool and Korg React, in which Deadpool humorously discusses joining Marvel Studios alongside Korg from Thor: Ragnarok. The self-aware crossover effectively served as an unofficial announcement that Deadpool's MCU future had begun. Marvel Studios officially confirmed in August 2021 that production would begin after 2022 and that release window had already been selected. During the following months, returning cast members Rob Delaney and Zazie Beetz publicly expressed interest in reprising Peter Wisdom and Domino, although only Delaney ultimately returned for the finished film. In March 2022, Shawn Levy was officially announced as director, reuniting with Reynolds for a third consecutive collaboration. Original Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick were simultaneously brought back to rewrite the screenplay alongside the existing writing team. Reese and Wernick embraced the opportunity to integrate Deadpool into the MCU while preserving the franchise's signature R-rated humor, revealing that Disney and Marvel Studios had given them remarkable creative freedom to continue the series' trademark self-aware satire, including jokes targeting Marvel itself. Veteran Marvel production designer Raymond Chan also joined the film after his work on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Kevin Feige described the project as a significant evolution for the franchise, comparing its increased scale and ambition to transformative third installments such as Captain America: Civil War, Thor: Ragnarok, and Avengers: Infinity War. Despite assembling an accomplished creative team, The filmmakers struggled throughout much of 2022 to develop a story worthy of introducing Deadpool into the MCU. Shawn Levy, Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and later writers Wells collaborated extensively on multiple screenplay drafts but repeatedly concluded that each concept felt too similar to previous Deadpool films or failed to justify the character's long-awaited MCU debut. Levy later admitted that he and Reynolds became so frustrated that they seriously considered informing Kevin Feige they should postpone the project entirely until they discovered a stronger narrative. Executive producer Wendy Jacobson similarly recalled that Marvel Studios itself struggled to identify a compelling central premise capable of supporting the film. Everything changed in August 2022 when Hugh Jackman unexpectedly contacted Ryan Reynolds expressing his desire to return as Wolverine. Reynolds was preparing for another meeting with Feige regarding the screenplay's ongoing problems when Jackman's call immediately transformed the project's creative direction. Reynolds later explained that Wolverine's inclusion instantly solved nearly every storytelling issue they had been facing, allowing the filmmakers to build the film around the long-awaited partnerships between Marvel's two most iconic anti-heroes. Jackman revealed that after several years of being satisfied with his retirement from the role, he suddenly realized that making a buddy adventure with Reynolds would simply be too enjoyable to refuse. Although Kevin Feige initially encouraged Jackman not to return because he believed Logan had provided the character with one of cinema's greatest endings, he ultimately embraced the idea after learning that Jackman would portray an entirely different Wolverine variant from another universe rather than resurrecting the version whose story concluded in Logan. Jackman also personally contacted Logan director James Mangold to explain the multiversal concept, and Mangold supported the project after being assured that the emotional ending of Logan would remain untouched. In September 2022, Ryan Reynolds officially announced Hugh Jackman's return as Wolverine in a humorous promotional video that immediately became one of the most celebrated casting announcements in modern superhero cinema. Alongside Kevin Feige and longtime X-Men producer Lauren Schuler Donner, Reynolds and Shawn Levy served as producers through their company's Maximum Effort and 21 Laps Entertainment, while Simon Kinberg returned as executive producer after helping oversee the previous Deadpool films. Throughout production, the filmmakers repeatedly emphasized that preserving Wolverine's legacy remained their highest creative priority. Rather than undoing the events of Logan, the film would honor that ending by introducing a completely separate Wolverine from another timeline, allowing audiences to enjoy Jackman's return without diminishing his previous farewell. During development, the production was informally referred to by numerous working titles including Deadpool 3, That Deadpool, Wolverine Film, Wolverine and Deadpool, Deadpool vs. Wolverine, and Deadpool and Wolverine. In February 2024, the joking placeholder title Deadpool Friend briefly circulated online before Marvel Studios officially unveiled the final title, Deadpool Wolverine, the following day. Shawn Levy explained that abandoning the title Deadpool 3 better reflected the film's structure as a true two-handed adventure centered equally on Deadpool and Wolverine rather than a traditional solo sequel. Ryan Reynolds similarly emphasized that despite its expanded scale and multiversal scope, the film remained fundamentally a Deadpool movie, preserving the franchise's trademark blend of extreme violence, irreverent comedy, fourth-wall-breaking humor, emotional storytelling, and unapologetically R-rated meta mayhem. Early reports estimated the film's production budget at approximately $200 million, making it one of Marvel Studios' more expensive projects. However, financial records released by Disney in 2025 revealed that the final production costs rose dramatically following extensive delays caused by the 2023 Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA labor strikes. Along with the increased scale of visual effects, practical production, and extensive multiversal action sequences, official tax filings showed the film accumulated a gross production cost of approximately $533.7 million, with tax incentives reducing the net production cost to roughly $429 million. This extraordinary expenditure made Deadpool Wolverine one of the most expensive films ever produced, reflecting both the unprecedented logistical complexity of the production and Marvel Studios' commitment to delivering the long-awaited cinematic partnerships between Deadpool and Wolverine on an epic scale. Pre-production on Deadpool Wolverine began in earnest in October 2022. Less than 2 months after Hugh Jackman unexpectedly agreed to return as Wolverine, marking the beginning of an intensive development period that executive producer Wendy Jacobson described as one of the fastest turnarounds she had ever experienced on a major Hollywood production. Once Jackman officially joined the project, the creative team rapidly finalized the film's core concept, transforming what had been an uncertain screenplay into a multiversal adventure centered on the long-awaited partnerships between Deadpool and Wolverine. Around the same time, Marvel Studios adjusted its release schedule for several Marvel Cinematic Universe (MCU) projects, moving the film's planned release from September 6, 2024, to November 8, 2024. In order to accommodate broader changes across the studio's theatrical slate. Although the film would later be rescheduled again following the 2023 Hollywood labor disputes, the additional development time allowed the filmmakers to continue refining the screenplay while preparing the project's large-scale production. By December 2022, director Shawn Levy confirmed that principal photography was expected to begin in May 2023. Reynolds strongly advocated for filming in his hometown of Vancouver, British Columbia, the primary production location for the first 2 Deadpool films, but ultimately acknowledged that Marvel Studios' well-established production infrastructure in the United Kingdom made England the more practical choice. By February 2023, production preparations had officially shifted to London, where Marvel Studios had developed a long-standing relationship with Pinewood Studios and several other major production facilities capable of accommodating the film's extensive practical sets, visual effects work, and multiverse environments. Casting continued to expand throughout early 2023 as Marvel Studios assembled an ensemble celebrating both the Deadpool franchise and the wider legacy of Fox's Marvel films. In February, veteran X-Men actor Patrick Stewart revealed that he had been contacted regarding a possible return as Professor Charles Xavier, prompting widespread speculation that another version of the iconic mutant leader might appear alongside Wolverine. Director Shawn Levy later clarified that while conversations had occurred, Professor X was never included in the final creative plans, as the filmmakers wanted to preserve the emotional focus on Wolverine's personal journey rather than overcrowding the story with additional legacy characters. That same month, Emma Corrin officially joined the cast as the film's primary antagonist, Cassandra Nova, after Marvel Studios had quietly pursued the actor since late 2022. Levy had been particularly impressed by Corrin's stage performance in Orlando and believed they possessed the unique combination of elegance, unpredictability, and menace required for Cassandra. Although scheduling conflicts initially complicated negotiations, Corrin ultimately accepted the role after production timelines were aligned. In March 2023, reports confirmed that the Time Variance Authority, TVA, and several narrative elements from Marvel Studios' Disney Plus series Loki would play a central role in the story, firmly establishing Deadpool Wolverine as the franchise's official entry into the MCU. Around the same time, Matthew Macfadyen joined the cast in the newly created role of Mr. Paradox, a manipulative TVA official whose actions ultimately drive much of the film's conflict. Before production commenced, Marvel Studios also confirmed the return of numerous familiar faces from the previous Deadpool films, including Morena Baccarin as Vanessa Carlisle, Rob Delaney as Peter Wisdom, Leslie Uggams as Blind Al, Karen Soni as Dopinder, Brianna Hildebrandt as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Shioli Katsuna as Yukio, and Stefan Copy Arasisia as the voice of Colossus, ensuring continuity with the earlier entries while integrating them into the larger MCU narrative. Throughout pre-production, Shawn Levy emphasized that preserving the identity of the Deadpool franchise remained his highest creative priority despite its transition to Marvel Studios. He repeatedly described the project as unapologetically raw, audacious, and very much R-rated, insisting that joining the MCU would not dilute the series' trademark blend of graphic violence, adult humor, profanity, emotional storytelling, and relentless fourth-wall-breaking comedy. Rather than treating the film as a conventional superhero blockbuster, Levy viewed it primarily as a character-driven buddy adventure inspired by classic action comedies such as 48 HRS, 1982, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, 1987, and Midnight Run, 1988, with the constantly bickering relationships between Deadpool and Wolverine serving as the emotional and comedic centerpiece. Returning actor Karen Soni similarly remarked that the screenplay fully embraced Deadpool's arrival in the MCU, incorporating numerous jokes about Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, and the interconnected superhero franchise itself. Marvel Studios granted the filmmakers an unusually high degree of creative freedom, allowing the screenplay to retain its irreverent tone with only minimal revisions. Levy later revealed that Disney requested changes to only a single line of dialogue, replacing one particularly explicit joke targeting Disney with an alternative gag that maintained the franchise's comedic spirit while slightly softening the wording. The revelation highlighted Marvel Studios' willingness to preserve Deadpool's distinctive voice even within the broader MCU. Costume design became one of the most celebrated aspects of the film's pre-production. Veteran costume designers Graham Churchyard and Mace C. Rubio, both experienced with previous Marvel productions, collaborated to modernize the appearances of Deadpool and Wolverine while paying tribute to their comic book origins. Hugh Jackman's costume represented the most significant redesign of Wolverine's cinematic history, finally bringing the iconic yellow and blue suit to live action after more than 2 decades of black leather costumes in Fox's X-Men films. The design drew heavily from John Cassaday's artwork in Astonishing X-Men, while also incorporating visual elements from the classic 1970s costume created by John Romita Sr. and Dave Cockrum, as well as the popular 1990s interpretation illustrated by Jim Lee. Although Fox's earlier films had occasionally referenced Wolverine's comic-accurate appearance, including a humorous line in X-Men 2000, and a deleted scene from the Wolverine 2013, Jackman had never actually worn the famous costume on screen. Levy believed Deadpool Wolverine might represent the final opportunity to realize that long-awaited visual milestone and oversaw numerous fittings and design revisions to ensure the suit honored decades of comic book history while remaining practical for the film's demanding action sequences. Jackman later described wearing the costume for the first time as a surreal and deeply satisfying experience, remarking that it looked so right and felt so right that he wondered why he had never worn it during his earlier appearances. When Marvel Studios released the first official image of Reynolds and Jackman in costume, fan reaction was overwhelmingly enthusiastic, with audiences celebrating Wolverine's faithful comic book appearance and speculating that the design confirmed he was portraying a new multiversal variant rather than the version from the Fox films. Ryan Reynolds also received a redesigned Deadpool costume featuring brighter shades of red, larger black eye patches, improved texturing, and details closely inspired by the character's classic 1990s comic book look. Shawn Levy later described the overwhelmingly positive response to both redesigned costumes as one of the most gratifying moments of pre-production, reassuring the filmmakers that audiences embraced their commitment to honoring the visual legacy of Marvel Comics while introducing the characters into the MCU. Principal photography on Deadpool Wolverine officially commenced on May 22, 2023, under the working title Tidal Wave, with filming taking place primarily in London, Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, Bovingdon Film Studios, numerous on-location sites across England, and later in Los Angeles, with additional photography also reported to have occurred in Vancouver, British Columbia. The production reunited director Shawn Levy with cinematographer George Richmond, following their successful collaborations on Free Guy, 2021, while George Caudle served as supervising stunt coordinator and second unit director, overseeing the film's ambitious action sequences. Because Levy was simultaneously an executive producer on Netflix's Stranger Things, Marvel Studios and Netflix coordinated their production schedules so Levy could divide his time between directing Deadpool Wolverine and preparing episodes for the 5th and final season of the acclaimed series. When filming began, the 2023 Writers Guild of America, WGA strike had already started, although principal photography continued because the screenplay had already been completed. Ryan Reynolds, who had traditionally improvised and rewritten dialogue during filming on the previous Deadpool films, was prohibited under union rules from making any script revisions on set. Consequently, Marvel Studios carefully planned production around the finalized screenplay, postponing potential dialogue changes until later reshoots. Levy also made the deliberate creative decision to rely heavily on practical locations rather than digital environments or soundstage-heavy production whenever possible, believing that authentic real-world settings would provide the film with a more grounded visual identity despite its expansive multiversal storyline. During the first phase of production, the crew filmed numerous large-scale practical action sequences across London and the surrounding English countryside. Early filming included elaborate urban sequences, extensive practical stunt work, and major action scenes involving Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, while a spectacular car crash sequence was staged on London streets in early July 2023. Shortly afterward, Reynolds and Jackman traveled to Norfolk, where additional outdoor scenes featuring Deadpool and Wolverine were filmed against expansive natural landscapes. At the same time, Marvel Studios announced that the film's release date had been moved forward from November 8, 2024, to May 3, 2024, reflecting confidence that production was progressing ahead of schedule. However, those plans changed dramatically when the SAG-AFTRA strike officially began on July 14, 2023. Forcing Marvel Studios to halt production immediately. At the time filming stopped, approximately 35 shooting days had been completed, with another 35 days still remaining, meaning only about half of the film had been photographed. Morena Baccarin was among the few principal cast members who successfully completed all of her scenes before production shut down. Rather than dismantling the enormous practical sets during the indefinite hiatus, Disney chose to preserve them at significant expense so filming could resume immediately once labor negotiations concluded. Although cameras stopped rolling during the strikes, post-production work continued wherever union regulations permitted. Shawn Levy and Ryan Reynolds devoted the shutdown to reviewing footage that had already been completed, assembling rough edits, evaluating performances, and beginning early visual effects planning. Levy later remarked that the unexpected pause ultimately became a creative advantage because it allowed him to step back and objectively evaluate the material without the usual pressures of an ongoing production schedule. One of the most significant action sequences filmed before the shutdown featured an intense confrontation between Deadpool and Wolverine that Levy intentionally modeled after the emotional rhythm, staging, and visual composition of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader's climactic duel in Return of the Jedi, 1983. George Cottle worked closely with Levy throughout production and was given unusual creative input not only in choreographing the action but also in shaping the editing and pacing of several fight scenes. During the hiatus, Reynolds and Levy also finalized one of the film's defining creative moments, a large-scale action sequence choreographed to Madonna's iconic song Like a Prayer. The filmmakers personally met with Madonna to request permission to use the song, and she enthusiastically approved its inclusion while also suggesting the incorporation of a gospel choir arrangement, an idea that became one of the sequence's most memorable musical elements in the finished film. Following the conclusion of the SAG-AFTRA strike on November 9, 2023, Deadpool Wolverine became one of Hollywood's highest priority productions to resume because it had already completed roughly half of principal photography before the work stoppage. During the strike, Shawn Levy publicly acknowledged that meeting the planned May 2024 release date had become increasingly unrealistic, and Marvel Studios ultimately postponed the film to July 26, 2024. Allowing adequate time to finish filming and complete its extensive post-production work. Production officially resumed in London by November 23, 2023, with Levy later explaining that the months spent editing existing footage had significantly improved his understanding of the film's pacing, enabling him to approach the remaining photography with greater clarity and confidence. Around the same time, Ryan Reynolds announced the appearance of Dogpool, portrayed by the award-winning canine actor Baggy, who quickly became one of the production's most heavily promoted additions. Reynolds' Wrexham FC co-owner Rob Slaney also visited the set to film a cameo as a TVA agent while documenting the visit for the documentary series Welcome to Wrexham. Although the cameo was ultimately removed from the final theatrical release, footage of his visit remained part of the documentary series. Filming continued through the remainder of 2023 and into early 2024. With extensive work taking place at Bovingdon Film Studios, where many of the film's large practical environments including portions of the Void and other multiversal settings were constructed. During this period, Chinese media company Bona Film Group finalized an investment agreement with TSG Entertainment covering multiple films, including future entries in the Deadpool franchise, resulting in both TSG Entertainment and 20th Century Studios receiving an association with credits on the completed film. Principal photography officially concluded on January 24, 2024. Shortly afterward, the production relocated briefly to Los Angeles for a final day of filming. These pickups included Jon Favreau's appearance as Happy Hogan, reprising his Marvel Cinematic Universe role for Deadpool's visit to Earth 616. As well as the elaborate opening dance sequence performed by professional dancer Nick Pauli, whose choreography became one of the film's most widely celebrated opening moments. A subsequent filing with the United States Copyright Office also confirmed that limited photography had been conducted in Vancouver, further expanding the film's international production footprint. Throughout filming, Deadpool Wolverine attracted enormous public attention because of its multiversal storyline and the possibility of legacy Marvel characters appearing alongside Deadpool and Wolverine. Reports emerged that Jennifer Garner had secretly returned as Elektra Natchios, reprising the role she originally played in Daredevil, 2003, and Elektra, 2005. Although Garner publicly denied her involvement, she was ultimately revealed as part of the finished film. Numerous unauthorized set photographs also leaked online, revealing the returns of characters such as Sabretooth, Toad, and other recognizable figures from Fox's X-Men films, as well as a massive destroyed 20th Century Fox studio logo built as a practical set piece within the Void. These images fueled widespread speculation that the film would celebrate Fox's Marvel legacy in a manner similar to Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, which united characters from multiple previous Spider-Man franchises. Shawn Levy acknowledged the intense speculation surrounding the production, including persistent rumors that Taylor Swift would appear as the mutant Dazzler, but consistently refused to confirm or deny specific reports, emphasizing that every returning character was chosen because they served the story rather than simply providing nostalgic fan service. After the film's release, Levy confirmed that Taylor Swift had never been attached to the project despite years of online speculation. He also explained that appearances by returning actors such as Aaron Stanford, reprising Pyro from X2, 2003, and X-Men: The Last Stand, 2006, naturally evolved during screenplay development instead of being selected from a predetermined wish list of cameos. Ryan Reynolds publicly expressed frustration over the constant stream of paparazzi photographs leaking unfinished scenes and visual surprises, arguing that such images removed important narrative context and diminished the audience's theatrical experience. Nevertheless, both Reynolds and Levy ultimately accepted the unavoidable publicity as the cost of shooting extensively on practical locations rather than relying entirely on closed soundstages. Their commitment to real-world environments ultimately contributed significantly to the film's visual authenticity and helped distinguish Deadpool Wolverine from many contemporary superhero productions that rely more heavily on virtual production techniques and computer-generated settings. Deadpool Wolverine had its world premiere on July 22, 2024, at the David H. Koch Theater at Lincoln Center in New York City, where the film was showcased to the cast, filmmakers, industry professionals, members of the press, and invited guests. The premiere served as one of Marvel Studios' most significant red carpet events of 2024, celebrating Ryan Reynolds' official debut as Deadpool within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. and Hugh Jackman's highly anticipated return as Wolverine after his acclaimed farewell performance in Logan, 2017. Following its successful premiere, the film began its international rollout on July 24, 2024, opening in major markets including France, Germany, Italy, South Korea, and Japan. It expanded to Spain, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Mexico, and Australia on July 25, before receiving its wide theatrical release in the United States and China on July 26, 2024. The film was released simultaneously in a wide variety of premium exhibition formats, including IMAX, RAL 3D, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, Cinemax XD, ScreenX, and numerous other premium large format (PLF) theaters, allowing audiences to experience its large-scale action sequences, immersive sound design, and visual effects with enhanced picture and audio presentation. The film's release schedule underwent several revisions during its development and production. When Marvel Studios officially announced Hugh Jackman's return as Wolverine in September 2022, the project event commonly referred to as Deadpool 3A was initially scheduled for theatrical release on September 6, 2024. As Marvel Studios reorganized its theatrical slate, the release was postponed to November 8, 2024, to accommodate changes affecting several other MCU productions. In June 2023, Disney revised its release calendar again and moved the film forward to May 3, 2024. Following production scheduling adjustments related to the 2023 Writers Guild of America (WGA) strike. However, the subsequent SAG-AFTRA strike, which halted filming for several months, made the May release date unattainable. After production resumed in late 2023 and post-production schedules were reassessed, Marvel Studios established July 26, 2024, as the film's final worldwide release date, providing the filmmakers with sufficient time to complete principal photography, editing, visual effects, sound design, and other post-production work. The revised schedule ultimately positioned Deadpool Wolverine as Marvel Studios' only theatrical feature film released in 2024, making it one of the studio's most anticipated cinematic events of the year. Released as part of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Deadpool Wolverine marked a historic milestone for Marvel Studios by officially integrating the Deadpool franchise and numerous legacy characters from 20th Century Fox's Marvel films into the MCU's expanding multiverse storyline. The film also became the first Marvel Cinematic Universe film to receive an R rating from the Motion Picture Association, MPA, distinguishing it from all previous MCU theatrical releases. The R rating was awarded for the film's strong graphic violence, bloody imagery, pervasive strong language, sexual references, and crude humor, allowing Marvel Studios to preserve the mature tone, extreme action, and irreverent comedy that had defined the previous Deadpool films rather than adapting the character to the franchise's traditional PG-13 format. Following the film's theatrical success, speculation arose regarding the possibility of an extended edition or director's cut featuring additional footage. However, in August 2024, director Shawn Levy confirmed that no alternate version would be released, explaining that the theatrical cut represented his complete creative vision exactly as intended. Reynolds later revealed that he had jokingly suggested assembling a director's cut during production, but Levy declined because he believed the version audiences saw in theaters was the definitive and final version of the film, requiring no further revisions or expanded edition. Following its highly successful theatrical run, Deadpool Wolverine was released for premium digital purchase and rental on October 1, 2024, allowing audiences to watch the film on major digital platforms several months after its theatrical debut. The film was subsequently released on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD on October 22, 2024, featuring a comprehensive collection of bonus material that offered fans an in-depth look at the making of the film. Among the special features were several deleted and extended scenes that had been removed from the final theatrical cut, an extensive gag reel highlighting on-set improvisations and humorous moments between the cast, and a full-length audio commentary by director Shawn Levy and star producer Reynolds, who discussed the film's creative development, production challenges, character arcs, visual effects, and the process of integrating the Deadpool franchise into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. Additional behind-the-scenes featurettes explored the making of the film's spectacular action sequences, including the memorable fight choreographed to Madonna's Like a Prayer, the development and secrecy surrounding the film's numerous legacy Marvel cameos, Hugh Jackman's long-awaited return as Wolverine, and the collaborative effort required to bring together characters from more than 2 decades of Marvel films. The physical release also included a heartfelt tribute honoring acclaimed production designer Jackman, who passed away in April 2024 before the film's release, celebrating his decades of contributions to Marvel Studios and his final work on Deadpool Wolverine. The film proved to be an exceptional success in the home entertainment market. Upon its digital debut, Deadpool Wolverine delivered the largest first-week digital sales performance ever recorded for an R-rated film in the United States, surpassing the previous record held by John Wick, Chapter 4, 2023. The achievement further demonstrated the film's enormous popularity beyond its theatrical release and reinforced its status as one of the biggest home entertainment titles of 2024. Deadpool Wolverine made its streaming debut on Disney Plus on November 12, 2024, where it immediately attracted an enormous global audience. According to the Walt Disney Company, the film accumulated approximately 19.4 million views worldwide during its first 6 days on the platform, making it the most-watched live-action film premiere on Disney Plus since Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, 2022, and one of the strongest streaming debuts in the platform's history. Independent streaming analytics further reflected the film's exceptional performance. Nielsen Media Research, which measures television streaming viewership in the United States, reported that Deadpool Wolverine became the most streamed film in the country during each of its first 2 weeks on Disney+. The film generated approximately 1.34 billion minutes viewed during its first week of availability, followed by an additional 586 million minutes during its second week, maintaining the top position among all streaming films in the United States during that period. Its outstanding performance across digital sales, physical media, and streaming platforms further cemented Deadpool Wolverine as one of the most commercially successful home entertainment releases of 2024 and extended the film's remarkable global success well beyond its record-breaking theatrical run. Deadpool Wolverine emerged as one of the biggest commercial successes of 2024, grossing $636.7 million in the United States and Canada and $701.3 million in international markets for a worldwide total of approximately $1.338 billion. The film became a historic milestone for both Marvel Studios and Disney, surpassing Joker, 2019. After just 23 days of release to become the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time. It also finished its theatrical run as the second highest-grossing film of 2024, behind Inside Out 2, the fifth highest-grossing Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, film, and the 20th highest-grossing film in global box office history at the time of its release. Beyond its impressive ticket sales, the film proved enormously profitable. Deadline Hollywood estimated that Deadpool Wolverine generated a net profit of approximately $400 million, making it the third most profitable film of 2024 after accounting for theatrical revenue, marketing expenses, production costs, home entertainment, streaming, and television licensing. Separately, Forbes estimated that, based on Disney's later disclosed net production budget of approximately $429 million, the film earned roughly $241 million in theatrical profit alone, excluding additional revenue streams such as merchandise, digital sales, streaming, and physical media. Months before release, industry forecasts already suggested that Deadpool Wolverine would become one of the year's biggest box office events. Ticketing platform Fandango reported that the film achieved the strongest advance ticket sales of any film released in 2024 and the highest pre-sales ever recorded for an R-rated film. Likewise, AMC Theaters announced that more than 200,000 tickets had been purchased during the first day of sales, establishing another record for an R-rated release at the theater chain. Early tracking initially projected an opening weekend between $160 million and $165 million in the United States and Canada and approximately $360 million worldwide, with analysts expecting especially strong walk-up business from Latino and Hispanic audiences based on recent market trends. As release approached, industry observers including The Hollywood Reporter predicted the film would easily become the first 2024 release to surpass the $100 million domestic opening weekend milestone. Those projections proved remarkably conservative. On its first day of release in North America, Deadpool Wolverine earned an extraordinary $96 million, including $38.5 million from Thursday night preview screenings alone. Both figures established new all-time records for an R-rated film. The film then dramatically exceeded all industry expectations during its opening weekend, earning $211.4 million in the United States and Canada and $444.6 million worldwide. This represented the largest domestic opening weekend ever for an R-rated film, the biggest worldwide opening for an R-rated release, the largest opening weekend of 2024, and the sixth highest domestic opening weekend in box office history at the time. Thanks to its unprecedented launch, the film effectively recovered its originally reported production budget within its first 2 days of release. Within only 3 days, it also became Disney's highest-grossing R-rated film ever, surpassing the studio's previous record holder, Pretty Woman, 1990. The film continued to dominate theaters throughout the following weeks, repeatedly setting new benchmarks for R-rated releases. During its first full weekday run, it established new all-time Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and non-preview Thursday records for an R-rated film, grossing $24.4 million, $25.3 million, $19.3 million, and $18 million, respectively. It retained the #1 position at the North American box office during its second weekend with an additional $97 million, demonstrating exceptional audience retention and strong word of mouth. By its third weekend, Deadpool Wolverine surpassed the $1 billion worldwide milestone, becoming only the second film released in 2024 to reach that achievement after Inside Out 2. During the same weekend, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool Wolverine occupied the #1 position at the domestic box office while Blake Lively's It Ends With Us ranked second, making Reynolds and Lively the first married Hollywood couple since Bruce Willis and Demi Moore in 1990 to simultaneously headline the top 2 films at the North American box office. Although Alien: Romulus briefly displaced the film from first place during its fourth weekend, Deadpool Wolverine reclaimed the top position in both its fifth and sixth weekends, a rare accomplishment that underscored its remarkable staying power. The film remained among the top 10 highest-grossing films at the North American box office for 11 consecutive weeks, maintaining exceptionally strong attendance throughout its theatrical run. Internationally, it also performed strongly across nearly every major market, with its largest overseas earnings coming from the United Kingdom, $73.8 million, China, $59.7 million, Australia, $44.5 million, Mexico, $43.5 million, and Germany, $40.7 million. By the conclusion of its theatrical release, Deadpool Wolverine had firmly established itself as one of Marvel Studios' greatest commercial triumphs, becoming the studio's most successful R-rated production, one of the highest-grossing superhero films ever made, and a landmark achievement that demonstrated audiences' enthusiasm for mature superhero storytelling within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Its extraordinary financial performance, combined with record-breaking home media sales and streaming success, cemented the film as one of the defining blockbuster releases of 2024 and one of the most commercially successful comic book ad. Deadpool Wolverine received generally positive reviews from critics, with particular praise directed toward the performances and chemistry of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, the film's irreverent humor, emotional character dynamic, nostalgic celebration of 20th Century Fox's Marvel films, and its successful integration of Deadpool into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. However, many reviewers were more divided over its narrative structure, reliance on fanservice, multiverse storytelling, and thin overarching plot. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 77% based on 421 critic reviews, with an average rating of 6.9. The website's critical consensus states, Ryan Reynolds makes himself at home in the MCU with a surly quip while Hugh Jackman provides an adamantium backbone to proceedings in Deadpool Wolverine, an irreverent romp with a surprising soft spot for a bygone era of superhero movies. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score, the film received 56 out of 100 based on 58 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Audience reception, however, proved considerably stronger than the critical response. Moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore awarded the film an A grade, the same score earned by both previous Deadpool films, while audiences polled by PostTrak gave it an impressive 96% positive rating, with 85% stating that they would definitely recommend the film to others, reflecting its broad popularity among general audiences despite its more polarized critical reception. Many critics highlighted the chemistry between Reynolds and Jackman as the film's greatest strength. Pete Hammond of Deadline Hollywood described the long-awaited pairing as a collaboration that exceeded expectations, calling it a dream superhero team-up and praising Hugh Jackman's performance as arguably his finest portrayal of Wolverine. Ollie Richards of Empire similarly commended Jackman for bringing genuine emotional weight and vulnerability to the character, arguing that despite the film's relentless barrage of crude jokes and self-aware humor, he delivered a surprisingly moving character arc. Richards also praised the filmmakers for prioritizing the relationships between Deadpool and Wolverine over broader MCU world-building. Matt Zoller Sites of RogerRabbit.com awarded the film 2.5 out of 4 stars, describing Reynolds and Jackman as portraying two emotionally broken, deeply regretful men whose shared journey ultimately gave the climactic moments genuine emotional resonance. Ross Boname of Collider believed Deadpool finally realized his full cinematic potential through his integration into the MCU, while Jackman's Wolverine was allowed to become more brutal and comic book accurate than in any of his previous film appearances. Krista Foria of the Associated Press praised the film's central relationship, describing its mixture of hostility, reluctant friendship, and homoerotic comedic tension as one of the movie's most compelling elements, while Mick Lassale of the San Francisco Chronicle applauded the contrast between Jackman's grounded dramatic performance and Reynolds' non-stop comedic energy. The film's humor, self-awareness, and affectionate tribute to Marvel's cinematic history also received widespread praise. Dominic Bies of the Seattle Times described Deadpool Wolverine as pure, unadulterated fun and a heartfelt love letter to longtime Marvel fans. Brian Lowry of CNN argued that the film demonstrated Marvel Studios' willingness to parody itself and embrace self-deprecating humor following years of criticism directed at the franchise. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter believed the film's relentless barrage of meta-jokes, fourth-wall breaks, and references to the MCU, Disney, Kevin Feige, and the entertainment industry reached radioactive levels, but considered its comedy to be its strongest and most consistently entertaining aspect. Foria also suggested that the film's sharper self-awareness and willingness to critique superhero conventions made it a stronger entry than the previous Deadpool installments. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian observed that Reynolds could be simultaneously hilarious and exhausting, but argued that Deadpool fulfilled his self-proclaimed role as Marvel Jesus by turning the MCU itself into the punchline while reinvigorating the franchise with irreverent humor. Nick Shogger of the Daily Beast praised the film as exactly the jolt the MCU needed, applauding Marvel Studios for successfully incorporating an unapologetically R-rated character into a franchise long associated with PG-13 storytelling. Similarly, Richard Lawson of Vanity Fair admitted that, despite the overwhelming number of industry in-jokes and Hollywood satire, the film somehow managed to work as entertainment. Tom Jorgensen of IGN also praised its relentless comedy, particularly its jokes aimed at Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, although he felt some of the violence and darker humor were toned down compared with the earlier Deadpool films. By contrast, Katie Walsh of the Los Angeles Times argued that the movie's endless stream of pop culture references, celebrity jokes, studio satire, fourth wall breaks, and nostalgic callbacks primarily catered to devoted Marvel fans and highly online audiences, potentially limiting its broader appeal. Donald Clark of the Irish Times was even more critical, dismissing the film's juvenile humor and awarding it only 1 star out of 5. Although many reviewers praised the performances and entertainment value, criticism was frequently directed toward the screenplay and storytelling. Peter Deborah of Variety described the film as an affectionate farewell to 20th Century Fox's Marvel era, arguing that it functioned more effectively as a nostalgic tribute than as a blueprint for the MCU's future. He also felt that director Shawn Levy excelled more at comedy than large-scale action, suggesting the action choreography did not reach the same standard established by David Leitch and Deadpool 2. Similar criticisms were echoed by Karen James of the BBC and Justin Chang of NPR, both of whom considered many of the action sequences visually underwhelming. Chang described the film as a self-cannibalizing slog, criticizing its derivative multiverse narrative and arguing that its attempts to satirize Marvel were ultimately undermined by the fact that it remained another Marvel Studios production. Alyssa Wilkinson of the New York Times expressed similar reservations, observing that many of the film's jokes targeting Disney and the MCU lost some of their satirical edge because audiences were paying Disney to watch the very product being mocked. Jordan Hoffman of Entertainment Weekly awarded the film a C, criticizing it as repetitive, immature, and lacking meaningful dramatic stakes despite the charisma of its leads. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times, while more positive with 3 out of 4 stars, praised Reynolds and Jackman but argued that the villains and overarching plot were underdeveloped. Rooney likewise described the storyline as an overly complicated collection of familiar multiverse concepts held together by excessive exposition, calling the film messy and overcrowded despite acknowledging that it was likely to satisfy audiences. Bill Jabiri of Vulture summarized the divided critical response by writing that while Deadpool Wolverine might not be a particularly well-crafted film in traditional cinematic terms, its relentless irreverence, energetic performances, and unapologetic commitment to entertaining its audience ultimately made it difficult for viewers to resist its chaotic charm. Overall, critics largely agreed that Deadpool Wolverine succeeded because of the remarkable chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, whose performances elevated material that many considered narratively uneven. While opinions differed regarding its dependence on nostalgia, multiverse fanservice, and self-referential humor, the film was widely recognized as one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most entertaining recent entries, successfully blending outrageous comedy, graphic action, heartfelt emotion, and a celebratory farewell to the legacy of Fox's Marvel franchise. The overwhelmingly enthusiastic audience response, combined with its record-breaking commercial performance, ultimately established Deadpool Wolverine as both one of the year's biggest blockbusters and one of the most successful R-rated superhero films ever produced. Review: From the very first scene, Wade Wilson is squatting in the grave of Wolverine and the X-Men cinematic universe he helped build. This is not a metaphor. The film literally opens with Ryan Reynolds' crimson-clad dynamo 6 feet deep in the hole Hugh Jackman's superhero was buried beneath at the end of Logan, desperate to resurrect the pasta or at least exhume the corpse of it for a gag. It is not a metaphor, and yet it happily invites one all the same while watching Deadpool Wolverine, the third fourth wall-knocking laugher starring Reynolds and an endless barrage of dick jokes, often funny ones too. Marketed as a long-overdue buddy comedy about the most popular, and lucrative, characters in Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's respective overs, Deadpool Wolverine is indeed quite giggle-inducing when it slouches back into the iconography of its leads and watches what happens when you stuff 2 short tempers in a Honda Odyssey for an extended road trip. Hint: those stains are never going to come out. However, the movie seeks to do a number of other things at the same time as well, including be yet another swan song for the Fox-era X-Men movies, while also standing tall as the next chapter in the eye-watering 34 movies and counting Marvel Cinematic Universe. It feels the simultaneous weight of being an ending and a beginning, human centipeding itself between the already creaky continuity left by 2 decades of Fox X-Men movies and the even more impenetrable multiverse canon of the post-Endgame MCU. Deadpool being Deadpool allows Reynolds, who is also a co-writer and producer on the film, to have some fun at Disney's expense. More than once he turns at the camera and mocks the timey-wimey nonsense Marvel finds itself in nowadays, even consoling Jackman that he's finally made it to the MCU at a bit of a low point. The knowing chuckle from the audience does not blunt the truth in that one-liner, though, and Deadpool Wolverine's attempt to address it leads the movie to falling in the traps that have bedeviled so many recent MCU movies. Deadpool Wolverine ultimately becomes a long parade of fan service and cameos and a Swiss cheese hangdog plotline that turns itself into knots in order to justify every last walk-on wink from the past 25 years. Any emotional heft, such as it is, comes from nods to older, better movies, including the remains of Logan's heart that Deadpool might yet find buried, as well his own more whole self left by memories of halcyon days in Deadpool and Deadpool 2. Still, there is a genuinely crowd-pleasing comedy here, and it comes whenever all the TVA talking heads and villainous exposition prattle is dropped for long stretches, and Reynolds and Jackman just get to bicker like an immortal The Odd Couple. Only Felix and Oscar now have claws and a bloodlust that never breaks. The setup that makes that possible is again due to the TVA, or Time Variance Authority. They're the interdimensional bureaucrats from the Disney Plus series Loki. One especially efficient pencil pusher there, Mr. Paradox, Matthew McFadden, has apparently dubbed the timeline where all the Fox X-Men movies exist as ripe for demolition. Why should this world carry on now that its beloved Wolverine is dead? So Paradox has gone rogue and plans to destroy it in a plot-friendly 72 hours. That gives him just enough time to offer Reynolds' loquacious Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, a one-way ticket out and into the sacred timeline where the rest of the MCU heroes reside. Instead, Wade is justifiably outraged that some empty suits are going to say everyone he knows, including his beloved Vanessa, Morena Baccarin, cab driver Dopinder, Karen Sony, and sweet sugar bear Peter, Rob Delaney, all back for about 5 minutes of screen time they do not deserve to exist. There is something even faintly delicious about the film criticizing media executives deciding on a whim which universe or storyline counts. The movie brushes past that though to get to its real goal, Wade going rogue and stealing TVA technology to find a new Wolverine for his timeline, ultimately settling on a yellow-clad loser Logan. Jackman, who might have gotten his whole X-Men team killed in his own timeline. It's vague, but when attempting to bring this especially broody muty into the Fox-verse, Deadpool and Wolverine find themselves inadvertently condemned to the void, a desert wasteland between time and space filled with nerd-friendly cameos and one tyrannical warlord, Cassandra Nova. Emma Corrin. Deadpool Wolverine is neither coy or oblivious about where its greatest strengths remain. They're right there in the title. While the film is far from the strongest entry in either the Deadpool or Wolverine franchises, it's also far from the worst. Director Shawn Levy has built his career on making serviceable star vehicle comedies, including for Reynolds, Free Guy, and Jackman, Real Steel. He dutifully sets them up to look good in Deadpool Wolverine 2. Even as, especially in Jackman's case, it's almost a victory lap. The concept of an old man Logan filled with regret and waiting to die alone was more or less where we found him in the last 2 Wolverine movies, and it's where we find him here. But there's a looseness to Jackman this go-round, and not just because he's finally wearing the yellow spandex he eschewed in the original X-Men films. This is a Wolverine played by an actor with nothing left to prove, and he's only too happy to be the grumpy straight man opposite Reynolds, who 3 films deep has never looked more comfortably flippant. Seemingly born with a preternatural gift for the ironic one-liner, Reynolds knows how to sell the arched eyebrow, even when it's